The following program is sponsored by the Today's Home Remodeler television network.
Welcome to Today's Home Remodeler. I'm Stuart Heath, and on today's show, we're looking at some insulation options for unique areas in a home. We'll begin with Gary Rockweiler from Rockweiler Insulation, who will introduce our program and the different projects he has in store for us. Next, we'll catch up with Pat Harrington, who will show us how to seal up a crawl space to create comfortable living space in the room above. And we'll finish up today's show with Brian Allman out in an older farmhouse where the occupants are looking to utilize a third-story walk-up attic. So we have a lot to cover today, and we'll get started after these messages.
Insulation. There are so many choices. What's right for you? The energy professionals at Rockweiler Insulation can help by providing an energy analysis of your home and a recommendation on the right type of insulation. Proper insulation will reduce excess noise, help maintain a comfortable temperature, and reduce your energy costs. Don't settle for less. Contact Rockweiler Insulation at 845-7625. What you don't see makes all the difference.
Each year, we like to do a program on residential insulation because regardless of the style or age of your home, it's the one area that you're virtually guaranteed to get a payback. So let's begin with Gary Rockweiler from Rockweiler Insulation, who has a couple of unique insulation projects that we'll feature on today's show. So Gary, it looks like you're actually working on a new home construction here?
Yeah, Stu, the market isn't all as bleak as some folks want to portray it. We still do a fair amount of new construction work, and by the way, that's starting to resurrect a little bit. So things are looking up. This is a plan for a new home we're working on.
So there's new construction going on. In the past few shows that we've done with you, we've focused more on retrofit situations or increasing the energy efficiency of an existing home. Is that still going strong as well?
Certainly. The public has been well educated on how to reinvest in their structures and make sure that they're getting the maximum they can from their energy savings. And so that has maintained, it's doing well, it's prospering in that side of the business. And the good news is we also have some new construction now starting to come back into the mix.
Well, one of the reasons I love doing a show every year with you guys is it's always new technology. You're a cutting edge company. You're always looking for the latest, greatest products out there. What do you have in store for us today?
Well, we're going bottom to top. The first thing you'll see is a crawl area that's been a damp, musty old crawl area that's making that living area above it quite uncomfortable. So we're going to show you how we foam the perimeter of that crawl area, the walls and the box sill, and then we put a plastic membrane on the floor and attach that with the foam so that when this is all done, it's very dry, and dry is comfortable and much easier to heat and saves more energy. So that's the first thing.
Okay, great.
The second job you'll really enjoy. This is a 75-year-old farmhouse that has a very large walk-up attic that for years was just used for storage, and now they want to utilize that for living space. And so we're going to go in there. They've framed it to recommendation to accommodate a better insulation package. So we're going to be going in there and doing the bibs method up there, the blown-in blanket. And so that'll be your second job. And those farmhouses are always charming, older, and you get to see a unused room come to life.
Oh, really? And so we get to see a lower level, a crawl space. That's always a challenging area to keep warm. You think of our cold winters around here. And when I say cold, it's not that you're in the crawl space itself. It's that above it, it never seems to be comfortable, but I bet it will after you're done with it.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. And a lot of it is just the dry capacity it has now with sealing that floor off, doing the wall. There's really little chance for permeates to come into that area. So that's important. Dry makes it more comfortable.
Sure, and then a 75 or 100-year-old farmhouse, that's going to be neat to see, because why not take advantage of usable space? I assume it has a nice walk-up attic, and it's not just the insulation, it's the air sealing as well, because I think about old farmhouse, I think it can get quite drafty, especially if it's out in an open field.
Oh, certainly, certainly. So this will not only give them additional living area and more comfort for that, but certainly it's going to be an energy saver too, because what was leaking before will no longer leak.
You know, that's up in the attic. Do you ever have the opportunity to address like a limestone basement in those old foundations as well?
Oh yeah, in that house, by the way, I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to be doing the foam in the box sill of that one. That's on a limestone wall system. So sure, that'll tighten that up, which is, you know, the box sill is the weakest point in the whole building structure in terms of energy loss. So we can address that. So again, those are some of the more interesting projects we work on, these older farmhouses, to see something like that come to life.
Well,
It's
great.
terrific.
Well, I'm going to let you get back to work here. I'm going to go catch up with Pat out at that crawl space.
Sounds good,
job.
Stuart. Thank you.
Well, Pat, this has to be one of the nicer crawl spaces that I've been in. Not that I frequent them all that often, but you know, it looks like the guys have done a good job in prepping it. Now, what's the situation?
Yep, they came in and did a little prep work before we got here. They cleaned out the old batting and a lot of the stuff that was laying on the floor to kind of even it out, and basically put the poly down for us to get a start here.
Okay, well, before we get into exactly what they're going to do, let's talk about the challenges of crawl spaces. I mentioned to Gary a little earlier how I've never been in a room above a crawl space that was comfortable. The floor was always cold. The room itself just didn't seem, you know, cool in the summer or warm enough in the wintertime. Yet he mentioned that this process is going to solve those problems.
Well, we're going to try to make this more into a conditioned space, like your basement you walk into, okay? Biggest culprit with a crawl space is they just left a dirt floor here, Stuart. And if that ground moisture comes up, it makes it really uncomfortable in this pocket.
Kind of just permeates everything.
Exactly. So what we want to do is we want to try to get a really good seal on this floor so we keep all our moisture down underneath this plastic, and then we run it over towards the foundation wall.
Now, Pat, in some instances I've seen where they put visqueen down, but they always seem to have a hard time sealing it against the wall. Usually they just use old wood or rocks or bricks, whatever they have. How do you address that area?
Well, by just using rocks or wood, it doesn't really adhere this to the wall, and that's what you want. So when we come in, we're going to use spray foam today, and we're actually going to seal this directly to the wall. Put a little bit behind it and run right up over the front of it. So basically, now we have this sealed right to the wall. All the ground moisture stays down. Can't leak up into this conditioned area. And then we follow the foam up through the knee wall and even up into the box sill. So now we've created a really good seal all the way down through the floor and on all three sides of the crawl space.
Yeah, and you say all three sides because this obviously attaches to the basement. And this is all for energy efficiency and air sealing.
Yes, exactly, Stuart. And also now on the back wall, we allow a trapdoor so heat from the basement can come out and condition this area also.
And again, how that's going to help is it's going to heat the space, warm up the floor, and create comfortable living space above.
Exactly.
Well, let's get out of the guy's way, and we'll see the end result in a few minutes.
Sounds great.
Well, Pat Travis is about 50% done of spraying the interior of this crawl space, and we've asked him to take a little break so we can come in here, see what he's accomplished, and you can explain, again, what the goal is here with this spray foam insulation.
Well, the basic goal is to try to keep the ground moisture down. There's our poly first, so we want to kind of air seal it first and then go for R value. So we've got our ground moisture down. We've come across. They've sealed it very well to this concrete. Up the concrete, and remember we had like a wood knee wall here?
Sure.
See how you see none of the wood anymore?
Okay, so that's important to make sure you have a complete envelope there's no way that air can get through.
Exactly. And even if you can see we're doing the three sides, we're also, where we enter the actual crawl space, we've sealed that plastic just like this to that concrete.
And if you weren't to do it with this spray foam method, you'd have a real challenging time, you mentioned, sealing it from the moisture, because any little hole, any little gap allows moisture in and defeats the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yes, basically you're trying to seal it like an exterior of a house.
And again, what this is going to do, you said you want to make this a conditioned space. So really, in essence, if it's in the wintertime, you want this to be warm, like a basement. And so if it's warm here, it's going to be warm above. And in the summertime, cool here, cool above. Ultimately, it's comfort for the occupants.
Exactly. So when they're walking up there in their socks or whatnot, they don't feel that cold floor. Plus, even if you remember how we came in here, you could feel the dampness in here.
Sure.
As you can tell, most of it is gone now.
Hey, now that you mention that, it does feel drier already, even though he's only about 50% done. I think a lot has to do with that he sealed this poly.
Exactly, Stuart.
And you might not think that there's a lot of moisture in the earth underneath the house, but there is. And this is a case in point. I mean, I can really feel it. This is also a great illustration of why you wouldn't want to take the old approach of trying to fill this with fiberglass batting. First of all, it would be a bear to do and to maintain it up there. But second of all, you wouldn't have the warmth of the conditioned air. And so you really wouldn't be helping the comfort level upstairs.
Right. Get the heat to it, and it acts basically just like a basement, Stuart.
And you know, I noticed that there were different types of material you were spraying over. There's poured concrete on the back wall. There was some poured concrete here. There was block foundation in another crawl space. There's even wood with the knee wall. Does it matter what you're spraying over with that?
No, not much at all. Basically, as long as it can adhere, we're in good shape.
And so really it comes down to the attention to detail and the experience of the installers themselves.
Exactly, Stuart.
Well, Pat, you know, it's not the most comfortable area in a home to shoot a television program, but I really enjoyed having you on explaining how to professionally seal and insulate a crawl space.
It's been my pleasure, Stuart.
Stay tuned. We'll head out to an old farmhouse to tackle a walk-up attic next, when we continue with today's Home Remodeler.
Insulation. There are so many choices. What's right for you? The energy professionals at Rockweiler Insulation can help by providing an energy analysis of your home and a recommendation on the right type of insulation. Proper insulation will reduce excess noise, help maintain a comfortable temperature, and reduce your energy costs. Don't settle for less. Contact Rockweiler Insulation at 845-7625. What you don't see makes all the difference.
In our last segment, insulation specialist Pat Harrington explained how properly sealing and insulating a crawl space can create a more comfortable living environment in the room above. Now let's check out the challenges of insulating a walk-up attic in an old farmhouse as we catch up with Brian Aumann from Rockweiler Insulation. Oh, Brian, this is going to be a beautiful piece of living space up in a third floor walk-up attic on a 100-year-old farmhouse. Is that why they called you out here?
They called us out here, Stuart, to go ahead and give them some options for insulating this third floor because they do plan on finishing it off here.
Well, I know on several shows we've covered different insulations, and as I just glance around, there's a number of them I see that are being applied in this situation. And to me, it seems like a pretty challenging area to insulate. Is that a fair statement?
Most third floor walk-up attics are, a little bit more than just your average insulation job. They do become quite a challenge.
Okay, so how did you tackle this project?
This project, Stuart, we got a couple different methods that we're using on this. We have some spray foam in some spots, we got some regular fiberglass batting, and then of course the bib system with the whole ceiling.
Why'd you opt for spray foam right in that wall?
This particular wall here, Stuart, was a 2x4 turned flat, so we had very limited space. We had 1.5 inches of space to work with, so we used a closed cell foam product to give them the maximum R value in this wall.
Sure, so maximum R value, and as I recall from previous shows, the foam does a great job of sealing it up as well.
Yes, especially with these older homes, you need to pay attention to that ceiling too.
Now I know with a traditional attic, venting is very important. What about a third floor walk-up? Still important?
Still important to a degree, Stuart. In this particular case, there isn't a lot of ventilation for this type of attic, so we're going with more of a hot roof system in the insulation for this one.
Okay, is that for the entire thing, or it looked like I saw some chutes on the way up right over here?
Yeah, you did, Stuart. We had a couple areas here where we did have full ventilation from soffit to the actual peak of the ridge vent up here, so we can get that continuous airflow. So those are the only areas that we're going to actually use that ventilation in, because when you can't have that continuous airflow in and out, you sometimes end up with moisture problems.
Okay, so that explains, as I look up here near the chimney, you're sealing off some of that venting, and it looks like you're keeping just the vent open that has a lower vent as well.
Yeah, that's right, Stuart. Wherever we have a full connection from the soffit to that ridge vent to run that full air chute, we've left those open, and everything else, as you can see, we did seal those off so we don't let any of that air into this system once we're all done with it.
Okay, so the bottom line for any homeowner out there, if you don't have equal high and low ventilation, you're going to end up with a moisture problem.
Absolutely, Stuart.
And over here I see that they have the Optima system started. And let's explain what Optima insulation is.
Optima insulation, Stuart, is a blown fiberglass that we dense pack into wall or ceiling cavities, and it consists of a much finer fiber than what normal attic blown insulation consists of.
So why is that so important to get it densely packed in these cavities here?
Getting it densely packed into this ceiling cavity, Stuart, is very important because you want to make sure you have no air movement inside the cavity, whether it's the ceiling or the wall. You want to make sure you're taking care of all that air movement inside that cavity.
And so in the wintertime when I've driven through towns and you take a look over the house and you see some pockets of melted snow or the rafters there that are showing, it's because there's air movement, air pockets in there, and the warm air of the house is melting it off?
That's exactly right, Stuart. What it is air leaking from the home getting into certain channels of that roof system and melting the snow on the roof.
And with the great attention to detail that your installers show, these homeowners aren't going to have to worry about that.
No, this will be nice and dense packed when it's all said and done. No air movement in this system at all, Stuart.
Okay, so were there any other options that the homeowners could consider for a situation like this?
There's about 3 options that you can pretty much go with a roof system and a 3rd floor walk-up attic like this, Stuart. You can go with the system that we chose with the bib system. You could go with option 2 with the spray foam, the closed cell spray foam, Stuart. Or you could go with conventional fiberglass batting. The difference between the 3, we're going to get a really nice dense packed system with this blown-in Optima. The closed cell foam is a good product, but not very economical. And then when you talk about fiberglass bats, you can use fiberglass bats in this system, but you don't get the density that you do when you start using blowing products and dense packing it in.
So the homeowners considered all their options, and what was the best value, at least it appears to me, this is really the best value for this situation.
Best value, and ended up with a very good R value when it's all said and done, Stuart.
Well, you know, as I look around, I see another area that intrigued me, and that's all the foam along the edges. Any of the rafters there or any of the wall boards. Why is that so important?
Well, sealing all that stuff up, Stuart, takes care of the air infiltration coming into this building. With these older homes, you have a lot of nooks and crannies, cracks, where everything's just not that tight, like new construction is. So we run around with foam guns, we seal all those little nooks and crannies to make sure that air infiltration is not getting into that cavity, affecting the insulation system upon completion.
And it's really that important to have that attention to detail, even on the wall boards themselves?
Very important, Stuart. Any air infiltration into that wall system is going to potentially cause moisture in the future or heat loss from the inside of the building to the out.
Well, I really like doing shows with you guys because of that attention to detail. All the workers that we see foaming everything, installing the different products, they seem to take great pride in doing it right so the homeowner doesn't have to worry about infiltration or moisture problems.
Yeah, we try to stay a step above it, Stuart, and make sure all that stuff's taken care of.
Stick around. We'll head downstairs to seal up a drafty old foundation next.
Insulation. There are so many choices. What's right for you? The energy professionals at Rockweiler Insulation can help by providing an energy analysis of your home and a recommendation on the right type of insulation. Proper insulation will reduce excess noise, help maintain a comfortable temperature, and reduce your energy costs. Don't settle for less. Contact Rockweiler Insulation at 845-7625. What you don't see makes all the difference.
So far in today's show, we've seen how to properly seal and insulate a crawl space and learned why the Optima system from Certainty was the perfect choice for this walk-up attic. Now let's head to the basement of this older farmhouse to see how the professionals at Rockweiler Insulation reduce infiltration around the box sills to create a more energy efficient and comfortable home. Oh, I love an old farmhouse foundation. You never know what you're going to find, and down here it looks like an old sandstone or limestone foundation, a little red iron in there as well, probably 3 feet thick.
Yeah, a lot of characteristics of these older homes, Stuart.
Okay, so what are you going to do down here that'll ultimately help the homeowners enjoy more comfort in their home?
Well, down here, when we were here for the initial estimate with the homeowner, he had mentioned that he had some drafty areas coming in through the sill area on the north wall of his home. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here today and try to get this sealed off better for him, Stuart.
Okay, I see some insulation up there already, so obviously either he or the previous homeowner had tried to do something, but this just wasn't very effective?
Yeah, it looks like you said, Stuart, in the past they've tried to stuff what they can in there for just conventional fiberglass and, you know, maybe even some patching of some cement and stuff in there, but the fiberglass won't stop that airflow from getting in there. So after we remove that, we'll clean that space out real good and get a closed cell foam in there, really seal that up good, Stuart.
Well, you know, earlier in the show, Gary mentioned that whether it's a new home or an old home like this one, the weak link always tends to be this box sill area or the rim of the house.
Yeah, whether it's an old home like this, Stuart, or a newer home, it's the part of the home where you're putting the whole top cap of the house onto a foundation. So it's always a spot where it's going to be leaky.
And does that foam tend to be the best product regardless of the age of the home?
It's going to be the product that's going to give you that guarantee seal at that plate.
Okay, now over here I see an old window or an old coal chute of some sort. Are you going to be able to do anything here?
Yeah, after talking with the homeowner, Stuart, you can see that they tried to patch this up the best they could with some of the store-bought handy foam kits. And he just explained to me that it just got way too difficult for him to handle that product and get it sealed right. So he asked if we could go ahead and address this area for him also.
Sure, and you know, if anybody's ever used that spray foam out of a can, again, it never seems to go where you want it, but always seems to get on everything else where you don't want it.
Yep,
So it can
does
be
do
very
that.
frustrating, and hopefully in today's show, the viewer sees that there is a solution. Hire a professional, the guys with the right knowledge, experience, and tools, they won't have to worry. And again, that foam will adhere to that, so you won't have to really do too much prep.
Yep, the foam will adhere right to this plywood. As far as prep work, there was some previous fiberglass sitting in here, and there's a little bit more that the guys got to clean up here before we do actually spray this. But they'll go ahead and make sure all this loose fiberglass, any big particles are removed before they spray that 2 inches onto the surface.
Another challenging area to me, it looks like right up in here. Can you address any of that?
Yeah, we're going to also take this stuff out, Stuart, as we are with the rest of the north wall, and go ahead and coat that with spray foam too.
Well, Brian, as we've said many times throughout the years, insulation is an investment, and they're definitely going to get their money back on their investment, but more importantly, they're going to enjoy a nice, comfortable home when you're done.
Yep, comfort levels are always important to every homeowner, Stuart.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today's show to this old farmhouse and showing us how you tackle these unique situations.
Glad to do it, Stuart.
Now here are some key points to help summarize today's show. If your home has a crawl space and the room above it is uncomfortable, it probably needs to be professionally sealed and insulated like we saw in today's show. And if you have an unused walk-up attic that you'd like to convert into usable living space, start by having a professional insulation contractor assess your home and explain the different insulation options for your situation. And whether your home is older or newer, the biggest area of heat loss is usually around the foundation. So talk to your insulating professional and see if they can spray the box sills and penetrations with a closed cell foam to seal it up and create a more energy efficient and comfortable home. Well, we're all out of time for this week's show. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you again next time on today's Home Remodeler.